Okay, here we go. We have Raymond Santana and Yusef Salaam of the Central Park Five.
What's up?
What's happening? Yes, sir.
Definitely an honor to have you guys, man. Such an incredible story that you guys have gone through. And, I just recently watched the documentary that Ken Burns put together, to really just get a better picture about what happened. And, just want to give my apologies to everything that you guys have gone through because it's really a horrific set of events.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you.
that.
Appreciate that, man. Definitely.
So let's go ahead and just talk about the story from the very beginning to where we are right now. So you guys were essentially teenagers, like 14, 15 years old at the time?
Yep.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and you guys were living in the Bronx?
No, Yusef lived in Schaumburg, and I lived on the east side of Harlem.
Yeah.
I lived in Spanish
okay.
Harlem at the time.
Now, at the time, and this is the 80s, I guess?
Yeah, 89, 1989.
Right, late 80s. The New York that you see today with, Times Square being a big tourist attraction and everything is relatively safe and so forth. This was not the New York back then.
No, definitely wasn't.
Not at all.
Times Square back then had, peep shows, a bunch of them,
Sure, it looked like Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, definitely different.
Right. And you guys were kids. I mean, before this incident, did you guys get into any trouble or were you relatively good kids?
No, we came from good homes, middle class, families. We had no dealings with the law. This was our first time.
Yeah, that's all of us.
Yeah.
This was like a brand new kind of experience in terms of, I always say too that I always felt like the cops were your friends. I thought that those were folks that, you would see them in the streets, you could say hi to them, you could go to them and tell them what's going on and be safe. And I mean, we look at us as in terms of the inception of what happened to us in our lives. And then we fast forward to today and it's like, man, no way, no how. And now we're having children and we're scared for for them to be interacting with officers the way they're interacting because, now some of them are our age in terms of when we were going through our situation,
Yeah.
I mean, and at the time, New York was really dealing with a crime problem.
Yeah.
There was the subway vigilante
Yeah.
that would essentially, shot a couple people that attempted to rob him.
Yeah.
I remember there was the, what's it called? The Guardian Angels?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and these guys would essentially ride on the train to protect the passengers against the gangs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was already sort of a feeling in New York of kind of danger and sort of an unsafe kind of environment.
Mm-hmm. That's true, but that's also like the whole slippery slope kind of thing when you think about the fact that, they wanted to be more tough on crime, but then they basically took a paintbrush and painted everybody of color with the same paintbrush and said, well, nah, all of these people are susceptible and capable of doing this kind of thing, when that wasn't the case,
Yeah.
Right. Now, the night of the incident, were you guys in Central Park at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What happened was that I lived on the east side of Harlem, and next to that complex was a housing, was a project called Taft Projects. And so I went over there to hang out with some dudes, and that night in Schaumburg, they was having a party. So we went over there to visit the party. Now, I didn't know Yusef, I didn't know Kevin, I didn't know Corey, I didn't know Antoine. But how we wound up all together was through mutual friends. Some people in my group knew some of the people in his group. And so we went over there to go to a party, and the Schaumburg boys was all in front of the housing complex, and that's how we all got together.
Yeah.
Okay. So after the party, how did you guys end up in Central Park?
Oh, no, we didn't even go to the party. We got to the housing complex. We got to Schaumburg, and we was in front of Schaumburg, just standing around, some of the guys just talking. And then somebody was like, yo, we going in the park. But for the Schaumburg boys, that was their backyard.
Yeah.
They was there all the time. So it was nothing to go on 110th Street and just hang out. And so, me being 14 at the time, I just followed the crowd.
Okay. So a group of you go to Central Park. Like, how many people was it?
Oh, it was a lot. It was close to 30. It was a bunch of kids.
I always thought it was more than that.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
could've been more than that.
in terms of just the way that the visuals looked, to me it almost looked like 50 people. I was all the way in the back of the crowd because I had a limp. I was walking, I had injured my leg, and they were all already walking into the park and stuff like that. And it's crazy because, like, you know, even when we think about those times back then, it wasn't something that was abnormal. This was something, you know, especially for me, like Raymond is saying, me living in Schaumburg Plaza, right across the street from Central Park. That was the norm. We would always go into Central Park. I would go in there and ride my skateboard. I would go in there and climb trees. You know, we would go in there and walk around the lake. Back then, it was a disgusting lake when you think about it. You know, smelled real bad. But for us as young people, we thought we was doing something romantic. If we walking around the lake holding hands with a young girl, you know, that was the extent of our, you know, our ventures into things that we shouldn't have known anything about. You know.
Right. So you have a group of roughly 50 Black and Spanish kids hanging out.
Yeah.
Now, does anything happen that night? Because I had heard some stories about an incident, someone got beat up and so forth. Talk about that.
Well, nah. So you know, I mean, I was in the back, but from what I saw, it didn't start off where anything major happened. People were kind of horsing around, and you know, it was, to me, it was like young people being young people. And, you know, some car, we kind of made our way to the main traverse where the cars travel around. And I remember people like throwing rocks at the cars, and even that stuff, that, you know, you think about it now, like, man, so we're riding pretty nice cars. Somebody throw a rock at our car, we're gonna be pretty upset, you know?
Yeah.
But back then it was like, you throwing a rock at a car, that wasn't something that was abnormal or strange,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of the depth of our understanding of what we were actually doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, when I say we, I'm not talking necessarily even about me, Raymond, Corey, Antron, or Kevin. You know, none of us, we actually didn't do anything. A lot of people didn't do anything, you know, in terms of some of the stuff that actually happened, you know. We were really innocent bystanders in terms of watching and being witnesses to what happened, and, you know,
Yeah.
to really be able to tell the story all over again.
Yeah, and some things did happen, like a police car had came and they flashed the light on the group and everybody scattered, right? So everybody ran. So we was split. And after that, something did happen. Like, I didn't know about it because when I finally come back to the group, they was telling me about it. So, like, a couple of dudes who had got separated from the group, they did jump like an old man who was walking. They considered him a bum.
Oh, I saw that.
You know what I'm saying?
I saw that.
So, and these guys, they did cop out to those charges later on. They went to prison and served, you know, 1 year or 1.5 years in prison for that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Okay.
stuff like that. And like Yusef stated, we did go to the transverse and then we wound up going to the reservoir. And 2 people did get assaulted at the reservoir, and one of them was badly, but that was by one person.
Yeah.
That wasn't by a group. You know, it was by one person who did it, and he went to jail for that, and he served a year in prison for that.
Okay. So you guys are part of this group, and certain members of the group are you know, doing things they shouldn't really be doing. They're, you know, throwing rocks at cars. Someone
Yeah.
goes and beats somebody up and so forth. But you guys are not actually involved in any of that. You're just part of the whole group.
Just part of the group. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of that night, you guys just go home and that's it?
Well, some of us did. Like Corey left. Like Corey, you know, in Corey's story, he leaves the park like not
like
even
right after he went in.
right after he went in.
He was like, I'm out of
So
here. This is,
he
you
was
know.
like, you know, it doesn't make no sense for me to hang out with these dudes. He went back home, so he didn't witness anything. You know, for me, I got arrested outside the park. You know, by the time that person had got arrested, assaulted by the reservoir, and they called the police, and the police came on the group, whatever was left of the group, because a lot of people had left at that time.
Yeah.
And so I wound up getting arrested along with a guy named Steven Lopez. You know, and then after that, Kevin got arrested with a guy named Lamont McCall, and another guy named Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Okay.
Yusef didn't get arrested till like 2 days later or something like that.
Yeah.